whites need not apply. This is a real thing, and it really annoys me. I've had personal animosity against this issue because of the civil service. I applied back when they did the internship, the diversity internship. It's still up, still there. They've never taken it down.
And it literally says no whites.
Yeah, you have to be brown skin, disabled, or poor. Which weird to put those in the same category.
Right.
Civil service, but they're not the only ones. So the most recent example of this is the BBC. So we archived this just to make sure it's there forever. So this is a BBC trainee researcher position in which they've listed on some website for jobs. £17,000 per annum, required experience, 1 year, to go and work in Bristol for the BBC to do research for various TV shows. I mean, who cares about the job itself, except for the fact that you don't need to have a certain skin tone to do it.
Well, let's go up to go back up a second, because this is fine. Do you know a kestrel from a kingfisher or a gannet from a goldfish? If you love watching wildlife documentaries and can't wait to kickstart your career in TV, this researcher opportunity with an award-winning team in Bristol could be the one for you.
Doesn't require you to have a certain type of skin.
Yeah. How is my ethnicity relevant to this?
Yeah. They continue so on and so forth, and none of it's on camera. You're not playing Anne Boleyn, for example. So there's no reason for that, except at the bottom there, this opportunity is open to black, Asian, and ethnically diverse candidates.
That's mad. I mean, how is that legal?
It's not.
Right. Okay.
I spoke to a friend of ours who's one of our supporters who works at the civil service, and he tried to explain this to me. So apparently the Equality Act, it has a section in which it tries to legalise positive action, is what it's meant to do. So this is how it's meant to be understood,
right.
Which is that you can make an advertising campaign, for example, or say at the bottom, we especially love to get some,
diversity.
Well, is that the PC way of saying the M word these days? Because that's what I imagine these people at these offices, essentially that's what they're saying. We'd like to get people with brown skin involved. That's allowed. But what's not allowed is for you to just say, nah, if you've got a certain skin tone, you're not allowed in. Except that the BBC does it openly.
Well, I mean, they literally, this opportunity is only open to non-white people.
This isn't the first time either. This has happened before under the BBC, if you remember the internship they did for the London headquarters. Yeah. That's also got a lot of shtick. But there are people who have gone to court over this. You remember the police officer who went to court over the police doing this to him? Yeah. And he won.
But has anyone sued the BBC over this?
To my knowledge, no. But I just can't get over how they do this in public. They've been caught before.
Yeah.
I sent them an email at the time when they got caught, actually. They defended it to me, being like, no, we stand by our decision to exclude whites. And I was like, okay. Of all the horrible things the BBC does, I mean, sure, the statue and the rapist stuff is all there. If that's
Jimmy
not bad
Savile enough. But now it's just open racism.
That is historical in a sense, but this is now. This still goes on. I mean, this job is still posted. You can go and apply if you want.
This is a job that I'm literally racially excluded from.
Yeah, no whites. Whites need not apply. And they're not their only ones, as I mentioned. So if you go to the next link, this is just a compilation of a bunch of jobs I found online, which have a similar tinge to them. So ITV, BBC, QI, and the Discovery. So this is ITV, some research job. And they say this opportunity is only open to individuals from a group that is underrepresented.
That's really interesting, because I bet if you were to do a sort of tallying up of ITV or BBC presenters, because they're very London-centric and London is a very diverse city now, then I bet the white English would be considered to be underrepresented there.
Oh, even if you take the national figure, ethnic minorities are overrepresented in media. Someone sent me a link to that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, because then they'll just say, what about...
Because they've predefined underrepresented as just meaning non-white.
But then they'll just say, it may be underrepresented nationally, but this is mostly in London, so we've got to use the London number for ethnic minorities, which is the 40% or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then if they, have even tied that, what about the representation in Tower Hamlets? They'll localize it and localize it until they feel like they're away from it. And as you can see there, they say underrepresented groups. This includes, but is not limited to, black, Asian, and ethnically diverse candidates, people with disabilities, and individuals from a lower social economic background.
Listen, if you're poor or disabled, you're basically black.
That's what being black is. Being a disabled poor person. Okay, Joe Biden.
So awful.
I can't get over it. These jobs are all online. You can go search them yourself. So this is the one I mentioned from the BBC, being this opportunity is only open to brown-skinned people. And then the next one here being QI. QI of all places.
This was a researcher, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this opportunity is open to applicants from a group that is underrepresented. This includes, but not limited to, black, Asian, blah, 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 or disabled. And then Discovery being the same thing here. I mean, this is just the standard in media now, I guess. If you want a job, got to be a certain skin tone. It's just absolutely horrible. Sorry, I just hate it so much. The fact that it goes on in public and there's no like, oh, could you imagine if this happened to white people?
It is happening to white people.
Yeah, it's there. So the next link here is at least the Daily Mail have picked up on this, of all people, to praise. They usually hate the Daily Mail, but okay. Yeah. BBC bans white people from applying for £18,000 trainee job on Springwatch and The One Show. This is another one they found that's in Glasgow. And as they mentioned, it says the position is only open to black, Asian and ethnically diverse candidates. And this is not a nothing burger. I was able to find the link for this job. So if we go to the next one here, this is the link of Creative Access, in which you can see they're hiring, same position, except in Glasgow.
Eligibility, positive action scheme.
Positive. Positive. I know, you're just racist. You just hate white people. That's why you're doing this.
I just can't believe that racial hiring policies are just something the media does.
These are the people who lecture you about racism every goddamn day. Yeah. Especially the BBC. I mean, how many documentaries have we shown and we've been like, is uni racist?
Oh, everything.
Is Brexit
go on
racist?
BBC iPlayer and it's just like, this is racist, that's racist, the other's racist. Oh, God.
Anyone, is the BBC racist? Yes. We've got the evidence. Anyway, so we go to the next one. This is Nonsflix. Nonsflix have decided to get in on this because, of course, they have. So this is a £22,000 internship that excludes white applicants. We are looking for applications from writers of black, Asian and other racial or ethnic backgrounds that are underrepresented in high-end TV and the film industry. Specifically, given Netflix's choice of when they decide to change the race of characters for no reason,
well, yeah.
I'm going to say that, they're probably overrepresented there as well. But that doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
Reality never matters to these people. They just don't give a toss.
But, okay, so let's assume that for some reason that the law doesn't apply to the private companies and they can just be like, yeah, no whites. Browns only, thank you, or disabled, because they're basically the same. That's fine, but can the Conservatives... No, that's not fine, but, it's monstrous, but okay. But let's assume that for some reason they've got a legal out in having racial hiring policies. Why can't the Conservatives do something about the BBC doing this? You would think, okay, I mean, they're the government. They could say, look, you're not allowed to have racial hiring policies, surely. And I don't think that'd be a very controversial position with most of the country. But why can't they come down hard on the BBC going, no, what are you doing?
This isn't the first time.
No, of course not.
There's a bunch of them here right now being advertised.
Yes.
They've done this before. You remember the issue in London?
Yep. Conservatives, do something about this. You can... There's a spectacularly strong moral argument from the classically liberal position about non-discrimination on the basis of race. It's phenomenal. In fact, it's literally everywhere in the country would agree with this position as well. No one's going to criticise it, and it'll just be the black flag of Labour that's waving in the background complaining, and you don't have to care because they're failing everywhere. Like, it's so weird that this just goes on under a Conservative government. It's been Conservative government for 10 years. More than. What are you doing?
The easiest argument in the world. The right thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, what more do you want?
Yeah. It is improper that they have racial hiring policies. It's just wrong. You don't need to go any further than that. No one's going to challenge it, apart from, obviously, the Labour Party members who are staffing the BBC. But then you can make a good point about them being immoral racists.
They should be fired.
And they should be fired.
I mean, if not for an excuse to get rid of the whole BBC, I mean, at least get rid of the people doing this. So I thought that would be a nice intro to a tale about the scum who won't attend diversity and inclusion involvements. So the scum here being the white, cis, hetero men. And I'm not joking, she actually lists that in this article. So this is some article in which they're complaining about this. The number one reason white men give for not getting involved with diversity and inclusion. God. A few years ago, at the company picnic, I joined a handful of colleagues, helping to haul boxes of sandwiches and soft drinks through the park. All of us had signed up for this manual labour a few weeks prior, back at the office. And all of us, it turned out, were women. No men came to the company picnic on diversity and inclusion. Big shock.
Well, like, what is in it for them? Like,
exactly.
Look, just out of interest, like, look. So we've got a worldview that basically says that straight white men are evil and everyone else is good because they're being oppressed by straight white men. And for some reason, the straight white men just aren't showing up to be berated by us.
But we brought sandwiches. Yeah, I don't care. Like, I've got a job.
Don't want to be called a bad person because of my skin colour or gender.
She says, the gender imbalance of the picnic crew felt representative of a larger dynamic that I'd seen play out throughout my career. when a request for volunteers went out, women often seemed to be the ones who shuffled their schedules accordingly.
Must be nice to have a flexible schedule.
Out of sheer curiosity, I asked a couple of male co-workers why they hadn't helped carry items for the picnic or responded to some other recent calls for volunteers. None of them said they had anything against the idea of helping out in theory, they said. They just thought, I'm too busy. Yeah, they got a job. They got a job to do. And the women here who presumably work in the HR diversity department don't have a job, do you? That's why you got this to do. So
it's why their minds are occupied by questions of identity rather than work.
So she says, I'm too busy. It's a seemingly innocuous thought that can wind up having a major consequences for equality in the workplace. As a report...
No, that's right. That's absolutely right. You're absolutely right. If one group of people aren't working very hard and another group of people are working very hard, that's inequality. That's right. Equality has been destroyed by the hard-working group not shuffling things around for the picnic.
Yeah, and there's this group of SJWs who are doing the picnic instead of working. Yeah, you're not producing.
Yes. You are the cause of inequality. Get to work.
As a report from the Non-Profit Centre for Talent Innovation shows, researchers from the non-profit think tank asked white, straight, cisgender men with white-collar jobs in the US about their views on diversity, equity and inclusion in the workplace. Only 10% of the respondents thought DEI, I love how it's basically die if you move it around as well. I mean diversity, inclusion, equity, that spells die.
And there's no particular reason that they couldn't have had diversity, inclusion, and equity.
They mostly do, if you see the wording usually. They've moved it around, presumably because they realised it spells die. And when they're talking about white men, they didn't want that kind of messaging. So they said 10% of the respondents thought die wasn't important at all. The most common reason those men gave for not being involved in such efforts was that they don't benefit me. Yeah?
Well, I mean, you are the villain of the piece.
Like, why? What?
You're the problem that's causing inequality. You're the problem that's the oppressor. You're this, you're that. So why don't you come to our meetings? Why would I?
10% of black guys don't join the Klan because they wouldn't benefit them. Yeah, no. no surprise.
That's basically it. I mean, you basically have a new version of the Klan being formed in front of our eyes. And it's like, well, why aren't you black people coming in and joining our Klan rallies? Don't want to.
Why would I? So, for far more white men thought that die was at least somewhat important, 48%, and 42% thought it was very important. And the thing I got to mention here is this very much reminds me of East Germany, in which people would join the Communist Party because they saw it as a sign of just like, get special privileges.
Yeah.
And the East German security services took that as a sign that they were safe communists and not going to rebel. So the people filling in these surveys, I think, are in the same situation where they're like, look, I've been having this form, and my name's going to be on it, and they're asking me whether or not die is important. I'll just put yes, and I don't want to have to deal with this.
There's also the other angle. It's like, well, I mean, it's everywhere. So, I mean, important isn't an endorsement, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the Chinese Communist Party is important, but I'm not really in favour of them, you know? But they are important. You can't deny that, you know?
Oh, man. But yeah, because the stated preference, of course, being that none of the men came to the picnic, so...
Yeah. Yeah, the revealed preferences show that they're not into it.
Yet even in the latter group, dubbed the true believers, by the researchers, only 56% said they were actively supporting DEI at their jobs. The most common reason both groups gave for not being involved? I'm too busy.
That's right, I'm too busy being the pillars that hold this whole thing up. I know you've got important, busy work to do, like question the racial, gender composition of the workforce, but someone has to actually do the labour, don't they?
Someone's got to work in sales. Might want to sell some stuff to keep the business around, but okay. The report further drew from a national survey of more than 2,000 men conducted in February 2020, as well as a focus group of more than 500 participants and one-on-one interviews with 40 people. Some of the quotes from those interviews. Quote, I don't want to perpetuate bias, but I'm focused more on accomplishing what is asked of me and my team to achieve. One white man in senior leadership told the researchers.
Just white man.
Just white man.
I mean, it's just really, it's the complete negative image of how slave owners in the South must have, one Negro said this.
But also he's just like, yeah, I just want to do my job. That's what he said. It's like, I'd actually rather just do some work. The next quote, the ability to just get regular work done is so hard that there's rarely interest or time to work on the higher order tasks that promote a healthy culture, another respondent said. So this guy...
No one else is working hard enough, and I've got to work hard to make sure everything keeps running.
Like, USJWs keep spending all your time on, like, picnics to talk about your feelings. You leave loads of work, so I have to do it, in which case I can't come to the picnic. Perfectly valid response.
To be honest with you, he's probably having more fun doing the work. I would be.
Yeah. So it's, quote, still seen as kind of extracurricular, says Julia Taylor Kennedy, the lead researcher on the project and executive vice president at the Center for Talent and Innovation.
It hasn't been positioned as a core competency to driving business or individual leaders' careers forward. That's because it doesn't achieve anything.
No.
It builds nothing. You know, all of these people are like actually doing the labour of putting things together. Talking about their diversity isn't advancing anything. And so Julia's like, well, I mean, it's not positioned as a core competency. So yes, because it's not. It's very obviously extracurricular.
What would happen if we devoted 100% of the company's time to picnics to talk about my genitals?
Exactly.
How many sales would be made that month?
Exactly.
0.
And and the point of it being extracurricular, duh. I mean, if all of this dropped away and wasn't indulged in and no one cared about any of it, the business would still thrive. In fact, it would probably do better because it's now just had a big weight on its budget cut, and that money could go to something that's actually useful and productive. But instead, you get this.
Could hire some more workers. Could lower poverty. Nah. Rather just spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on people talk about genitals.
I'd rather just call black people disabled, thank you very much.
So says the diversity officer.
Yeah.
And when white men who continue to hold a disproportionate amount of senior level positions believe that they're too busy to help with something as important as equality in the workplace, it's no wonder that little progress gets made.
That's amazing.
Little progress.
Oh, you
Progress
think you're
towards what?
so busy running the company, but if you considered that productivity is a prime driver of inequality, you haven't, have you, white man? This is ridiculous.
The people at the BBC, I mean, we could just hire people and get the job rolling. No, but we need to hire browns or disabled. I still can't go over how they actually write that. In order to get white men truly on board with die, the report argues that companies need to...
Look, white men, we want to whip you for a bit, okay? While you're plowing the fields and pulling up the cotton, we just want to whip you for a bit. But for some reason, you're not turning up. Right? Come on, we need to get you on board.
To get white men on board with killing themselves...
Look, we're just racially profiling you and discriminating against you. Why aren't you on board with this?
The report argues that companies need to show them that building diverse, inclusive teams isn't something that takes time away from their real work, real in quotes, like that.
The real work.
Yeah, they're selling and making things. Can't do that. No, we got actual work to do, like talking about the goddamn genitals at a picnic. And instead, a fundamental part of their jobs, as essential as hitting sales targets or bringing on new clients.
But that's so revealing. Look, we have to persuade you that diversity is a fundamental and real part of your job, then it's obviously not.
God.
Embarrassing.
Like, you could sell 10 more cars this week, or you could do 2 seminars on diversity and inclusion.
But the thing is, they're completely avoiding the fact that all that's going to be said in these seminars and these workshops and these picnics are that white people bad. That's the premise upon which they're all grounded.
You know, you're right. We should never use the term seminar or conference or anything like this to give it any kind of credence. From now on, it's just picnics.
Diversity picnics.
Diversity picnics. That's all you people are doing. Companies can demonstrate the weight that DIE efforts carry throughout any number of practices, from tying compensation to leaders' ability to recruit, retain, and promote people of colour to give weight to the inclusive leadership behaviours during performance reviews.
But that has absolutely nothing to do with performance.
We're going to give money to a white guy who can keep more brown people around. Okay?
And how does this help us shift cars? Shift cars? What are you talking about?
Kennedy says that senior executives can serve as role models in changing the perception that supporting DIE has no personal benefit for white men. During town halls and other internal events, she says, they should include what they have learned from teams that were diverse, how it helped them identify previously overlooked markets, or what they have gained as leaders by sponsoring women and people of colour. As if they're puppies.
That's got nothing to do with the job.
The goal to create an environment where it's clear that die is a core value. I'm sorry, man. It's just yeah, we kill all our employees. That's the core value of the company here. One that no one who cares about their professional success would claim to be too busy to support. There is, however, one thing that it's perfectly fine to be too busy for. Changing the minds of the 10% of white men who don't care about diversity at all. Not all white men will want to join the movement, the report notes.
So let's have a moment to respect the 10%.
10%ers.
Who tell them to get bent.
The thin 10% line.
we laugh, but these are the men who build empires, so let's show them some respect.
The 10% who apparently run that company. Like,
they were doing all the work.
I mean,
it's like an advanced new reformation of the Pareto principle, isn't it?
I can't remember. John will remember the numbers. What's the Pareto distribution
20% would do 80% of the work.
20%, 8%. Yeah. So these 10% are doing, I don't know, presumably 60% of the work. So...
Well, no, to be fair, the other 10% is probably like, women and people of colour. Just like,
Yeah, like but not radical leftists.
Yeah, exactly. Just normal people who are there to do a job.
If an employee is being discriminatory or bullying others, they need to be held accountable. Otherwise, Kennedy says, you can waste a lot of energy trying to change their minds. And research suggests that a hard sell on diversity can actually entrench bias rather than mitigate it.
Just screaming in their face, white men are the problem, is just entrenching their bias.
Their bias. Bias against who? Brown people? No, against you. Yeah. Against you and your nutjob picnic friends.
Yeah, I didn't come out of it hating brown people, but I really was anti-communist.
The unspoken part of the knee-jerk response, I'm too busy, is, I'm too busy to help someone else. Meaning, my main responsibility is to myself. Privileged people are often brought up to think that way.
What?
Like, literally running the company.
No. Look, right. A normal person thinks that their job is the responsibility to help themselves. A privileged person is someone who thinks that it's your job to help them, right? That's what that is. That's an expectation. That's so unbelievably, arrogant to think, no, your job is to help me. You're my assistant. Why? Because I'm brown and you're white. Stop thinking it's all about you, Mr. White Man. It's unreal.
That's why I read through all that, because that's beautiful. I mean, you could not get a better summation of what they really think. So I just wanted to end on a little bit of a white pill for the last link. So this is new in. Priti Patel has scrapped unconscious bias training for the border force officers. Good. So something good. I mean, the Conservatives do good things on occasion, and they deserve applause when they do it, because otherwise why would they do it? Yeah. And so getting rid of this unconscious bias nonsense, great news. Plenty more of it. And if you want a better example, go to the BBC. Yep. Look at their jobs, look at them saying whites need not apply, and then decimate them.
Yes.
Get rid of the 10% in there who are causing such problems. Or the whole thing, if you're having a polite
literal decimation, in fact.
Yeah. I mean, get rid of all of them. I'm sorry, it's unacceptable. It is the easiest win on the planet. Get to work.
If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.